What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the discussion going on primarily on Twitter about the Redfall versus Zelda, conversations. Now, I talk a lot about console fanboys. I'm not one of them, and for some reason, maybe it's because things can hear me talk. I don't know how Twitter operates, but I get recommended the console wars, so I basically am a part of it without ever once liking a tweet. I don't respond to these people, none of that stuff, and yet Twitter, maybe it's because I just look at it and they track my eyes. Again, I don't know how it works, but they just keep showing me this stuff. So I've seen a lot of discussion, primarily in this case, and it's only because it's a specific case. I'm not singling out certain things, but I've seen a lot of Xbox, fanboys, these Redfall fanboys even, that are going after Zelda for the it not being equal. Now, to be fair, I guess I've seen a little bit of that even outside. I think even like David Jaffe pointed that out on Twitter, where he's like, I'm loving the game, but it is weird that, sites aren't bringing up like the fact that we just did this with Redfall and then Zelda's like this, and you're not really talking about it. So basically what's going on is a lot of people that, whether they truly like Redfall or they're simping it, right, they're just doing it to do it, whatever, to bow down, they're saying, well, Redfall comes out, it can't hold, a steady frame rate, it looks like this. Now, these are also the same people saying how amazing it is, and yet they're bashing their own game, so I don't really understand that. But they're saying, okay, well, it did all this, and game journalists, tore it apart and gave it these scores. Zelda, it, at times it can even do 20 frames a second, right, on Switch. Here's how it looks and all that stuff, and they're obviously giving it a 10 out of 10 and things like that. So, I mean, my response to that is, well, number one, they're two different, actually, this is the biggest thing, they're the two different platforms. So I think when games come out, you probably should judge them on the capabilities of the system. So if a game comes out on the DS in 2023, I don't know why that would happen, but you're not going to judge it, I assume, the same way you would judge a PS5 game. And, I mean, that's a huge exaggeration and something that can never happen, but here's honestly an example that did happen, right? So you have Redfall that comes out, and it can run on the Xbox Series X, one of, if not the most powerful console on the planet. In fact, wasn't that what Microsoft said, kind of leading into it? Now, you can debate and have the console wars of, is PS5 or Xbox Series X more powerful? Bottom line is, it's one of, let's say, it's in the group of the most powerful consoles that are out there on Xbox. So, yeah, I think you're going to have an expectation. And when a game comes out on Series X, you're going to say, okay, well, how does it run in relation to what the system can do? If the system can do amazing things and you can't, and the game doesn't do it, and the game is how Redfall is, well, you're going to hold that against it. On the flip side, flat out honest, the Switch, I mean, I don't think this is crazy, is not very powerful and is very, very old. And now we've seen what games can look on it when they don't try, like Pokemon. But we've also seen what games will look on it when they do try, and I would honestly say Zelda is one of them. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I think that's a really good example of this, just this ginormous, like absolutely massive game that looks and runs really, really well on the Switch. I think if you know what you're doing and you put in the time and effort, you can still make really nice looking games on the Switch. Now, nobody is going out there to say that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 looks as good as Plague Tale Requiem, right? Like, nobody's gonna make that comparison. The shading, like the actual art style of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears, I think is really good. And it's also kind of age-proof, right? I mean, there's certain kinds of art style that age better than others. So I think it just kind of by default looks good. But also, I mean, yeah, the game, well, number one, I would say, yes, the frame rate thing, the fact that it can drop and it does stutter when, kind of action-y things, maybe if there's too many enemies and you blow something up, like, yeah, there are some definite issues. Maybe that should have been held against the game. I'm not saying, that's not valid, but just the idea that, people are taking pictures of just Link up on a mountain and it's looking, and it's like, well, look at this game, and then look at Redfall, and it's like, okay, well, those are two completely different things. Again, you're not going to judge a game running on the Switch, a handheld, I mean, primarily, it's a handheld console that was made a long, long time ago that definitely does need a new one, but, everything I just said before is still valid. Nobody should be judging those on the same merits of performance. Now, again, the idea that if the base performance of Tears of the Kingdom is one thing, and then it catastrophically is lower than that, then yes, then you would judge it, right? Like if it came out on Switch and it was like Pokemon, which we just did, I think people were, and maybe even that's a very good thing to bring up. Like when Pokemon came out, not that long, like 6 months ago, that game was obliterated. Like people really went after that game everywhere, critics, and then more importantly, the actual consumers, people that bought it. There were videos and TikToks and all that stuff. There were so many people going after how that game ran, how that game looked, and why, because we know what the Switch is capable of, and Pokemon didn't meet that bar. So you're not even going to compare Pokemon to Redfall or to The Last of Us or to, pick like your modern, like really nice looking and nice running game. You would never do that, but people did hold the Pokemon to their feet to the fire just a few months ago because it didn't do what's kind of expected or, like what the Switch can actually perform. So I don't really see where the argument is. I've seen the thing of like Nintendo bias. I do think that's kind of separate. Like I think we're not going to have that discussion in this video, but I do think you can have a discussion of, are critics lean more towards Nintendo? Does Nintendo get like bonus points? Does Sony get bonus points, right? You can totally have that conversation, but I don't think that plays in with the performance. And again, granted, I'm doing this just as a bit of fun, just because I constantly see this stuff on Twitter. I just want to talk about it. This stuff doesn't haunt me. I don't like think about this as I'm going to sleep or anything. And I also understand it's not the majority. It's a very loud vocal minority, right? Like I get that. This is just for entertainment purposes. So I get it's not too big of a deal, but the people that legitimately think it, I guess that is the question though. How many people do legitimately think that? Because what you find is these are just people, you click on their profile, you go on their YouTube page, they just bash other companies and they absolutely adore Xbox, right? So it's like, all right, well, immediately I don't really trust you. So the amount of these people that actually believe themselves truly, I think is very, very few, like probably like 5% of the group that's even saying it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.